I told my husband it bothered me that he still talks to the female neighbor I don't speak to. He said I wasn't being logical. Then he got into a fight with a coworker, and now he's asking me to stop talking to him. Suddenly, logic doesn't seem to matter anymore. I told my husband it bothered me that he still chats with our neighbor, a woman I've had tension with for months. Her name is Natalie. She lives across the courtyard, diagonally across from our building, in a unit with too many succulents and a welcome mat that says "Namaste, bitches," which is basically her vibe. Fake casual with a mean streak. She's never done anything outright awful. That's the frustrating part. She's not aggressive. She's strategic. One of those people who weaponize politeness and sarcasm in the same breath. The first time she made a comment about me, we were 3 glasses into a patio wine night with a few other neighbors. Someone asked how my husband and I met, and I gave the short, harmless version. Drinks after work turned into dating. Dating turned into marriage. Natalie looked at me and smiled over her rimless wine glass and said, "You must have been a real wild one in your 20s to land someone like him." I laughed politely, because I didn't know her well enough to decide if that was a weird joke or a dig. Later, I realized it didn't matter, it was both. I told Lucas about it afterward. His response? "That's just how she talks. She's blunt, but she's not serious." Then he followed it up with, "You're reading too much into it." Classic. Since then, there've been more moments. Little ones. Once she waved at me and didn't wait for me to wave back before turning away. Another time, she asked Lucas if I was still freelancing or whatever, even though I'd explained my job to her clearly before. Once she complimented my earrings, then immediately said, "They remind me of these cheap ones I used to wear in college." All of it towing the line. Never enough to create a scene, but always enough to leave me with that bitter aftertaste. The kind that makes you second-guess yourself. I didn't want to be dramatic. I tried to keep it civil. I never confronted her. I never talked about her to other neighbors. I just kept my distance. If she waved, I nodded. If we passed in the hallway, I gave a tight smile and moved on. But Lucas still talks to her. Sometimes I catch them chatting near the mailboxes. Nothing long, just brief exchanges. He'll say she asked about the weather, or a local event, or that she's planning to adopt another rescue dog. He smiles when he talks about her, not in a flirty way, just familiar. The kind of smile you reserve for someone you don't mind being seen with, and it started to eat at me. So finally, one night after dinner, I told him calmly, no attitude, that it made me uncomfortable. That I've tried to stay neutral with her, but I don't trust her intentions. That it feels off, and I'd appreciate it if he didn't keep chatting with her like she's just any other neighbor. He looked at me like I'd just suggested we move into a cave and go off-grid. "You're not being logical," he said. "She's just a neighbor, it's not that deep." And that was it. No, I hear you. No, let me think about it. Just, I was being irrational and he was the reasonable one. End of story. He kissed my forehead and went to wash the dishes, and I stood there feeling like I'd just lost an argument I didn't even get to have. It wasn't the neighbor that hurt the most. It was how quickly he dismissed how I felt about her. How fast not that deep became not worth discussing. Then he got into a fight with a coworker, and suddenly, logic didn't matter anymore. It happened midweek. He came home later than usual, dropped his bag by the door with more force than necessary, and poured himself a drink before I even said hi. I asked what was wrong, and he gave a dramatic exhale like he was trying not to explode. Apparently, there was some tension at work. A male coworker, let's call him Ben, had challenged him during a project pitch. Said Lucas overlooked some key details and went off script in a meeting with a client. Ben wasn't rude about it. I've met the guy, he's actually soft-spoken. But Lucas took it personally. Said Ben was condescending, showing off, and trying to make him look stupid. I listened, nodded, tried to offer him a space to vent. Then he dropped it. "I don't want you talking to him anymore." At first I laughed, thinking he was joking. "Wait, what?" He didn't laugh. "Out of respect. I know you two sometimes chat at company events. I just think it's better if you kept your distance." I stared at him, trying to figure out what part of this he actually believed. Ben is married. I've never even texted him outside of a group thread. Our conversations are polite, professional, and mostly about food or bad coffee in the break room. "You mean, out of respect for you?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. It's just a boundary thing. The room went quiet. I felt it then, the shift, because suddenly respect mattered. Suddenly my logic didn't. He didn't ask how I felt about it, didn't question if I agreed. He just declared it. The same man who told me I was overreacting about the neighbor. The same man who still chats with a woman who makes sideways comments about me and acts like we're all in some polite sitcom. And now here he was, drawing a line. It was the hypocrisy for me, but I didn't argue. I just blinked slowly and said, sure. I made a mental note right then. This was never about logic. It was about who gets to be uncomfortable and who gets to decide when discomfort matters. I didn't argue, just nodded. He seemed relieved, like he'd scored a quiet win, like my compliance meant I agreed. The next day at work, I pulled Ben aside. We were getting coffee at the same time, easy, casual. He smiled and asked if I'd seen the email about Friday's lunch rotation. I told him I had. Then I added, hey, just so you know, I'm going to keep a bit of distance for a while. Nothing personal. He raised his eyebrows, confused. Okay, is everything all right? Yeah, it's fine, just a boundary thing, I said, echoing Lucas's exact phrase. Ben paused. Wait, is this about Lucas? Because I didn't mean. No worries, I cut in, smiling. It's nothing you did, I'm just trying to be logical. He blinked and then he smiled slowly. Okay, that's a little intense though. I shrugged. Isn't it? Then I grabbed my coffee and walked away. I didn't need to explain. I wasn't trying to make a scene, but I wanted the words to hang in the air. I'm just trying to be logical. I wanted to hear myself say it with the same flat, calm Lucas had used on me. Let it sit. Let it sting. Let it echo. I wasn't being petty, not yet. I was playing by his rules, word for word, the only difference. I was keeping score. That night over dinner, something he picked up last minute and forgot to warm, I asked casually, do you still talk to Natalie? He didn't even look up from his phone. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be rude. I nodded, took a sip of water, let the silence stretch. Then I said, of course not, that wouldn't be logical. He froze, not a dramatic freeze, just a flicker. Fork paused halfway to his mouth. Eyes lifted just slightly, like he wasn't sure he'd heard me right. I didn't look at him, just kept eating. He didn't say anything else after that. Neither did I. The silence that followed wasn't cold, it was clinical. Like I'd handed him a mirror and walked away. He sat with it, sat with himself. I finished my plate, cleared it, left his where it was, and for the first time in weeks I felt full. 2 days later, he brought her up again. We weren't even talking about her. I was folding laundry on the bed. He was standing in the doorway like he wanted to be helpful but couldn't quite figure out how. Then, out of nowhere, I think you're taking it personally with Natalie. She just jokes like that. I didn't even look up. You brought her up, not me. He shifted his weight, crossed his arms. I just think if you saw the way she talks to everyone, you'd realize it's not targeted. I kept folding, his shirt inside out, mine creased from being left in the dryer too long, calm movements, measured breathing. Okay, I said finally, want to see something. He blinked, what? I walked to the desk drawer, pulled out a printed sheet, crisp, highlighted, quiet as a paper cut. It was a transcript, 5 of their most recent texts. I'd seen them by accident when his laptop pinged while he was in the shower. He left his messages open. I didn't even mean to read them, but I did. Nothing flirtatious, nothing scandalous, just familiar. And at the bottom, one line stood out, the one I'd highlighted. Tell your wife I said hi, unless she's still pretending not to hear me. I handed it to him, he took it, read it, paused, read it again. She's joking, he said weakly. Is she? I asked. He looked down, his mouth opened, closed. He set the page on the bed. Logic, I said quietly, is recognizing disrespect when it's typed. And then I walked out of the room. No yelling, no storm out. Just clarity, the kind that doesn't need a raised voice, only a receipt. Got it. And I'm winning. Quietly. Lucas has been hovering more lately. The kind of hovering where he's in the room, but not saying anything. He does this thing where he watches me like I might suddenly start talking again if he just looks soft enough. He even started checking in, asking if I'm okay, if I want to talk, if I'm feeling better about everything. I smile, say I'm great. And I am, just not in the way he hopes. Because I've resumed talking to Ben, not in secret. Not flirty, Just regular, professional, polite conversation. Like coworkers. Like adults. Like people who, imagine this, share a workplace and don't carry around weird, jealous vendettas. It started when I saw him at the coffee machine again. He smiled. I smiled back. We talked about a project. He said, "So, boundaries lifted?" And I said, "No, just being logical." He laughed. "Fair." I told him it felt rude to keep avoiding him, especially when we work in the same building and have to cross paths. "It was never personal," I said, "just temporarily inconvenient." He raised an eyebrow and said, "You're dangerous in a suit." I told him, "I try." That same day, I added him back to a shared Slack thread. Then I CC'd him on 2 emails. Then I scheduled a coffee catch-up on our calendars, public, recurring. That night, Lucas saw the notification pop up on my phone when I was showing him a photo of a dog someone had sent me. His face went still. "Ben," he asked. I blinked. "Yeah. I thought you were keeping distance." I tilted my head. "We work together. It would be rude not to. I'm just trying to be logical." He didn't respond, but his jaw moved. Just slightly. Later, while I was finishing up dishes, he hovered again. Not helping, just hovering. So I handed him his plate and said, "You can rinse that. We both eat here." He rinsed it slowly, like someone trying not to say something he couldn't take back. The next morning, he said, "I think you're being kind of cold lately." I sipped my coffee and said, "Oh, sorry. I thought we were just being respectful." The look on his face? Beautiful. No fight left, just the dawning realization that he can't argue with the same rules he once insisted I live by. We used to talk about fairness in this house. Now I just serve it cold. Like dinner, which I still cook, by the way, but only enough for one. I don't say anything when he walks into the kitchen and sees my plate clean and his untouched. I just rinse mine, dry it, and leave his in the sink. Last night, he cleared his throat like he was going to say something. I turned to him, warm and smiling, and asked, "Did you text Natalie back today?" He froze. "No, Oh, good," I said. "That would have been awkward. But hey, I wouldn't want you to be rude." He stared at me. I kissed him on the cheek. "Have a good night." Now I've got a new playlist. It's called Fairness is Feminine. Ben added a song to it. It slaps. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I love you all.